I'm calling to order the municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and regular council meeting for Tuesday, April 14th. It is approximately 7:00 p.m. Would all please say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
The United States of
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the roll call, please.
Mayor Grieslock. Here. Mrs. Gatos.
Here.
Mr. Poach.
Here.
Mr. Harvey.
Here.
Mr. Wolfram.
Here.
Mr. Arsenko.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Little.
Here.
Mr. Ratcher.
Here.
Ms. Rock. Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mr. Sedlak. Mr. Weldon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in unprecedented times, as everyone knows, and we are holding this meeting in this fashion in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are having a Zoom meeting for our regular council meeting. We are also combining our agenda-setting meeting, or our Citizens Night meeting, all in one meeting to try to avoid everyone from coming together collectively. I'm at the municipal building. I'm joined with Mr. Hugus and Mr. Ratcher, and a couple other councilmen are in other rooms. We also have our Mrs. Gatos and our other councilmen at remote locations. The COVID-19 pandemic in Allegheny County, our numbers as of today, April 14th, there's 193 confirmed cases, mostly between the ages of 25 and 49. That's 342 of them, which is 38%. 142 past or present hospitalizations. So currently in Allegheny County, there are only 68 people that are currently hospitalized. And since the pandemic has began and hit this region, we have had, unfortunately, 24 deaths in Allegheny County. Those age ranges were from 56 to 103, but the vast majority of them being over the age of 65. There has been indicators that the social distancing and all the preventative measures that everyone's been taking has been working, and numbers have been dipping a little bit, which is a very positive thing. And I want to thank everyone for cooperating with the governor's recommendations and social distancing and all of the CDC recommendations and guidelines as well. The municipality has been very closely following the federal, state, and county departments of health and the emergency management agencies. I really want to thank Council Manager Little, our police chief, Doug Cole, who is also our emergency management coordinator, for all that they have done during this very trying time. We are currently operating under the federal, state, and county emergency declarations, and we will be eligible for approved funding if there is recovery funding available. We have not declared a municipal emergency declaration yet at this time because we have not had to do that. It's really a testament to how prepared Monroeville is for such instances. The major things that up to this point that we have not had to purchase anything, any material where a bid process would slow it down. We've not had to suspend our ordinances, and we've been able to deliver our vital municipal functions as we normally do. So it's very important for us to recognize that, and it's really a testament, like I said, to council, staff, all of our first responders, our police, fire, and EMS. With our in-house dispatch center, they serve as our emergency operations center. That is something that some communities have had to declare emergencies for, but Monroeville is fortunate to have our own dispatch center, and this council has shown ongoing support for that dispatch center, and it is very important at a time like this, and I think the opinion of council is that it's important all the time. Our police, fire, and EMS are operating as usual. They are operating in a safe fashion. They have ample personal protective equipment, and there has been no hiccups in the service that the emergency management agency or division of Monroeville has been operating. Our garbage and recycling has been being picked up as usual. Our public works department, they have been working, but they have also been working in different shifts. And all of our departments are working, but in a different fashion. At this point, no full-time employees have been laid off, but certainly this is something that we are closely monitoring. We will monitor throughout the year. Most departments are having to work differently, as most of us Americans are. People that can work from home are. We are staggering shifts coming into the building or other buildings off-site. But everyone is really determined to provide municipal services for the community, and council supports that. Our recreation department, the parks have been busier than ever, people getting outside with extra time. We've had some challenges with some people not social distancing exactly as they should, and we had to make some extra changes in the parks. We had to close our pavilions, our playgrounds, our courts. We unfortunately had to even take a step to take down nets and put goals, soccer goals together, because people were still meeting up for large contact sports, and that's just not appropriate. So the parks are still open for walking, biking, and hiking. We do encourage, and so does the CDC, encourages people to get outside, but still maintain social distancing where you are able to. The Parks and Rec Department are also planning for their summer season, as well as the library and the Monroeville Senior Citizen Center. They are also planning for their eventual reopening and their summer season as well. And both the library and the Senior Citizen Center are both transitioning to online programs, classes, and services. Residents can find more information on the municipal website or on the Facebook pages of the Senior Citizen Center or the Facebook page of the library as well. All the staff, I can't say enough how thankful we are to them. We appreciate it. They've all been extremely cooperative with these changes. They're all working very, very hard. And it's something that's extremely important at a time like this for our residents, whenever individuals really depend on government during these times. There have been layoffs of many part-time employees, 23 part-time employees, 19 from the library and 4 from the Senior Citizen Center. Many programs and events have been canceled. There was a decision to cancel the Memorial Day Parade and the program that goes with it. Unfortunately, we have agreed on a spending freeze and reduction by our department heads, so there will be no unnecessary spending. Everyone is trying to keep things under control. And certainly with the way things have been changing, there has been a reduction in costs just because some of the services have been closed and reduced with people not coming out. Council is also recommending along with the manager, a hiring freeze of a few full-time employees that were budgeted for this year's budget. And those savings are over $250,000 if we freeze those hirings at this point. We will also be canceling many purchases of capital items, which will also have savings. But this is obviously something that we are very closely going to monitor throughout the year, and probably into next year and the following year. There's going to be challenges at budget time for Monroeville, but at this point, this council and staff are committed to providing services for residents and doing so in the fashion that we always have here in Monroeville. Our business community is certainly and definitely will be impacted in a devastating fashion, not just in Monroeville, but throughout the entire country. I want to thank Sean Logan, the president of the Monroeville Area Chamber of Commerce, and his staff for what they've been doing. Businesses can go to the Monroeville Area Chamber of Commerce website for resources and guidance to how to help through this time. You don't necessarily have to be a chamber member to access that website and to get those lines. So I would encourage all the small businesses to see what resources are available to you in the business community. I would encourage residents to try to patronize the businesses that are still open and in a safe social distance fashion. Wear masks where you can keep 6 feet apart from people. I would also encourage you to please frequent the takeout options at our restaurants because they need our help, and they need our help to survive. There's going to be a lot of businesses that we're going to lose throughout this pandemic, unfortunately, and we all just need to help out where we can. We are fortunate here in Monroeville to have two of the healthcare giants, AHN, Forbes, and UPMC East, both here. Their leadership of Mark Rubino and Mark O'Hearn have done a phenomenal job here in Monroeville. There has been, certainly these are competitors in general, and over the years, people, understand that. But during this time, the leadership at both the hospitals and the hospital themselves have been working tremendously together and cooperating. It's really been a real positive for Monroeville, and they have been selfless in their actions. So we really want to keep in mind all of the healthcare workers that are still reporting to work and everything that they're doing for the community. Both hospital systems are doing well with capacity. They're doing very well with staff. They're doing very well with equipment, both major equipment and personal protective equipment. So Monroeville is in a good position as far as this situation, this emergency has been progressing. However, things can change at a moment's notice. So we really have to stress for people to continue to do what you're doing, the social distancing, the washing of hands frequently, the washing of surfaces and cleaning of surfaces regularly, not touching your face, coughing into your elbow, all of those precautions that everyone has been hearing about. We really need to do those things and really be smart about it. And the smarter we are about it, we can flatten this curve, we can get back to regular life, and we can stop having Zoom meetings for our council meetings. So I really just want to encourage everyone to really stay positive and support one another and continue to do everything, all the guidelines. And we're going to get through this, and Monroeville will get through this, and our country will get through this. So I just wanted to make those comments before we got started. The deputy mayor talked to me before the meeting. Greg, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This is for a good public service announcement. Starting 16 April, Rite Aid will be testing for COVID-19 in their parking lot on Route 22 in Monroeville. You have to register online, and how you do that is you go riteaid.com, follow the criteria online, and then you'll get an appointment time, and then they'll get you set up. So that starts the 16th of April. So again, follow the criteria. You have to have the appropriate symptoms to get the testing, and it is free. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. And that's a good service. And we do have, but once again, with our HN and Forbes as well, they're also doing testing in different capacities throughout all this. Once again, it's recommended that you don't show up at the emergency room unless you are extremely ill. You really want to contact your healthcare provider first. And then this sounds like in this Rite Aid situation, they're saying the same thing. You want to contact somebody first, and they will guide you on what you need to do. UPMC they will guide you to off-site testing. AHN Forbes will guide you to their testing. And the main thing is we really don't want to overrun the hospitals, but if we can get people tested safely, that's the best thing we can do. So with that, I mean, we have a unique situation where we're running this meeting. We've been advertising for several weeks that we were, because of the governor's order, we were going to have a meeting such as this with the public not involved, but we wanted to give the public comment time or an opportunity to comment. And they've been asked to reach out to the manager via email for their comments. We've received a few. I'm going to go through some of them. Some of the answers I've already covered with my initial discussion, but I'm going to just get some comments into the record here, and we'll get on with our meeting. We had an email from Rich Katay, who is a business owner and a taxpayer here in Monroeville, from the accounting firm of Katay, Lawrence, Ranker Associates. The the essence of his email was he just would like to urge council to vote yes tonight on extending the tax deadline for the business privilege tax and all the Monroeville taxes. So that's his comment. Mark Verhill, a resident, reporting that there is ongoing speeding on Abers Creek Road. It's been closed for through traffic. It's only open for local traffic. However, him and his neighbors feel that it's definitely being abused. There's a lot of people still using that road, and people are driving way too fast. So we're going to defer this to the police department to monitor this, but also to do that. The Northern Pike entrance is going to be closed very shortly for the construction of Northern Pike, the reconstruction of Northern Pike Hills. So once that happens, that'll certainly be going away, but we will have to monitor the speeding on Abers Creek Road. We also got an email from a Mr. John Yakum, and he has several questions. There's a few that are kind of lumped together, and they are currently a moot point because it has to do with how we're going to conduct the meeting. Because at the time he was going off information from the Times Express article saying that only 4 people would come to the meeting and that's it. But since then we have decided to do a Zoom meeting. Obviously all 7 council members are in attendance, and he goes on to discuss about how we canceled the agenda setting meeting, but the home rule charter permits us to do this, and council agrees as a policy decision to combine those meetings together. The home rule charter only requires that we have 1 meeting a month and also to offer public comment period. And that's what we're doing with the email transactions we've been doing over the past several weeks. He also goes on to ask about executive sessions, that we had executive sessions during that. He said there were 3 executive sessions since the start of the pandemic, and he was asking about how they were held and kind of assumed that we were actually meeting in council chambers. But all those meetings were done by teleconference with all 7 members of council calling in, and those will be repeated, read into the record here this evening, and any council legislative action will be taken, if any action, they'll be taken at tonight's meeting. And pardon me, I'm just trying to make sure I get all the points here of these questioning because some of them do overlap. Further goes on about once again, the streaming question, that the article in the Times Express was a little bit off, saying that we were going to be recording the meeting and then broadcasting it afterwards, but we were actually broadcasting this live through our TV channel and through Zoom. So that is a moot point. And it will still continue to be, as we always do, it'll be rebroadcast on the TV 15. It'll be available on YouTube, and certainly minutes are being taken right now, and there will be a record of the minutes as well, a printed record of the minutes. So there's a lot of coverage as far as this meeting goes. He also has a question with spending. He goes on, as we all know, there's probably going to be an impact to the earned income tax, business privilege tax, and real estate taxes by the pandemic, which we would all agree on. And he asks what kind of things that Monroeville is doing to reduce spending. I mentioned that earlier about the department heads cutting back on their spending and some of the freezes that council has been doing along with Manager Little. Asks if there's consideration to reopen the budget. That is always an option, and it's something for council to consider down the road. And I think at this point, we're in April. We are all very, very closely monitoring the situation. We have all year to monitor this, and we can always make these changes as we move forward. He asked about the layoffs, and there were 19 part-time employees laid off from the library and 4 part-time employees laid off at the Senior Citizens Center. And the manager will report on some things later. And current, the MS4 not required by law and can be adjusted entirely by a municipality. So he's asking about that, and if there's any consideration being given to reduce the MS4 program and delay some of the projects until things improve. Council has moved back the late penalty and delayed it to September 30th, and money has already been collected, and the changes will be to be determined, because at this point, the state has not changed any of their requirements of the things that we have to do to reduce our sediment, to continue to comply with our permit that we have. But at this point, those are the changes that have been done there. And then lastly, he goes on to ask about two events that happened recently at revolving around two different emergency service personnel at two different fire companies. Both matters are being investigated. And at this time, we are advised by legal counsel not to comment on these things, but more information as we go through our investigation will be forthcoming in public once we get through those investigations. And those are the ends. That's the end of Mr. Yakum's comments. And then we also we didn't have an email, we did have a voicemail over the phone to Mr. Little from Betsy Desmond, wanting to know essentially some of the same questions, if we have laid off any employees and what else is being done to save money. And I've outlined that in my comments, and she was questioning about what they're doing at the library and the Senior Citizen Center. And once again, they are transitioning to online classes and services and programs, answering the phones, responding back to residents' concerns, and trying to get them the help that they need. And that is the public comment period that I'm going to close right now. Those were the items that we received. Hopefully, we can get back to our regular council meetings where we can actually have it open to the public and people can comment as they have in the past.
Mayor, I'd like a question on the one last question that we had, voicemail.
Go ahead,
Talk about it a little
Mr.
bit.
Poach.
Thank you. We previously discussed as a group, and as we mentioned, for personnel reasons, we had executive sessions as well that needed to be discussed, and those specifics are confidential, obviously, individuals and things along those lines. But we had looked at a furlough program that was a little more extensive than where we are now. And I just wanted some folks to understand in answer to that question. We looked at it a little bit more expansively. One of the concerns I have about where we are now, and that it's not large enough in terms of what we're doing. And this is a very, very, very uncomfortable and terrible conversation to have when you talk about people, furloughing individuals. So I want everyone to understand that this is, one of a couple of outcomes for the problems, and none of these discussions are very good, to do that. So let's, be very honest about that to begin with. So as we move forward looking at that, I had the opportunity yesterday and today to speak to some folks from other communities as well. Ross Township in particular, Millvale, Westview, some other places as well, and talked about they have some huge concerns, as do we. And I looked at a place like Ross, very similar to us with business areas. They have Babcock Boulevard and McKnight Road. We have 286. They have a slightly bigger population than we do and whatnot too. And they have real concerns they're going to be able to make it through and without the sense of mercantile tax as well. So I want to propose to this group for us to consider, maybe I need to put it in the form of a motion to consider us to have greater furlough, more expansive furlough program, so that the people that are working now are the people we talk about furloughing. This is to protect them into the future. And I don't mean now. I think it's a very realistic possibility. And someone brought this to my attention today. Actually, Greg, an ALOM colleague of yours today, has some great concerns that by this time next year, there may not be municipalities currently existing because they won't be able to generate funds. I have a lot of concerns. Will the mall open back up? Our mercantile tax, what's going to go on with that too? So I want to try to protect what we have in the future. And given the current situation that we have now, the opportunity that with a furlough is an 80% of your base pay. There's no Commonwealth taxes, no local taxes taken, and the federal supplement to that to get back to 100% close to that gross tax. We discussed that as a possibility as a program, and we had moved away from it with the option, of course, the manager, if it was a big hardship, to be able to work with those individual employees as well too. So if I need to put it in the form of a motion to discuss, I think we should consider a more expansive program to do that. So I guess this is as good a time as any to do that. So I'll put it in the form of a motion to consider a more extensive furlough program.
I would second that motion.
Question?
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, may I, a question?
Go
Yeah,
ahead, Greg.
We can hear you, Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Greg.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Eric, I don't disagree with you, but right now, certainly there's always a plan, but I think right now we can still hold what we're doing. You know, we don't know what tomorrow brings. 30 days
Right.
from now may be different and we may have to lay off more. But right now, I think what we're doing is we're serving our public. I don't have any problem supporting your resolution, but I don't think the time to lay more people off is today.
We need to discuss it. There's no question about it, so that people understand how difficult a decision this is. And you know, again, I hope I'm wrong. I truly, truly hope that I'm wrong. We have social distancing ongoing planned through May. We've already canceled the Memorial Day parade. The 4th of July parade is in jeopardy. Is school going to be in place? How long those folks will be in place? That things will be closed.
Well, are we going to vote on this, or are you going to keep talking?
Well, I put it out there as well and see if anybody else wants. We're discussing the motion. Tom, what else do you think about it?
Well, I
Well,
have
I mean-
this to say. It would be terrible for us to lay off anybody right now because, number one, in order for them to collect their unemployment, first of all, there's like, I don't know, 3 million people in line. It's going to take them months to sign up as well as months to receive unemployment check. So therefore, we're going to have people standing in line for food and different things like that. So that's what we need to do. We need to maintain the force that we have today. That doesn't mean we can't change our minds, but today is the day we say we keep these people and move forward with what we have today.
Now, if I can make a suggestion for Eric, for your motion and Linda's second, would you want to modify that to take a vote to direct the manager to look into this program, to outline it? Or do you want, I guess I'm trying to understand the actual motion, what you want council to vote on right now.
Sure.
So, or maybe Mr. Ratcher, if you could maybe chime in on, I'm trying to make sure that crafting the proper motion is made and what they're actually voting on.
Well, I think that any action is going to be preceded by some recommendation from the manager based on consultation with council. So I would think that Eric's motion is intended to get that process started. Eric, is that correct?
If that's the best we can do at this time with it, since to be able to act on it, I'll certainly accept that so that we can actually report on that, at least at the very minimum, prior to our next executive session, prior to the start of our the citizens.
Vote on it tonight.
Well, at least we can vote on this motion to get it started. So I'll phrase that.
Well, no, I want to make a motion. We vote on not laying people off. I make a motion. Anybody second, Greg?
Well, hang on a minute. Let's deal with this motion first.
Mr. Little,
Yes.
we have talked and asked you for recommendations as to what we should be doing at this time as far as some of the full-time employees.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you may have some of that information available that you could share with the public, because we do have a lot of residents out there right now that are without incomes, and they are also applying for unemployment. And I feel that we are the gatekeepers of their money as well. And I think that we need to be very prudent in our decisions here for the entire community. I think we're protecting a lot of our employees now, but I think we also need to look out for this entire municipality at the same time.
We have to show confidence in our employees, that we have confidence in them.
I think that we have.
By maintaining
I'm
those
not done talking.
playoffs.
I'm sorry, I'm not done talking.
Well, I'm not done talking either.
It was my turn.
One moment, everyone. The challenges of a Zoom meeting.
would we have a,
Hey, Eric, I don't know where you're coming from. Linda, I don't know where you're coming from.
Let's do this.
You're going to want to run again, and you're not going to get elected because
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wilson, one second,
Finish.
everybody.
can I finish? I've asked Mr.
One at a
Little-
time, everybody's, if everyone could
I've
hold their
asked,
comments for one moment. If everyone could hold their comments for one moment, please. Mrs. Gatos, why don't you finish your comment?
I've asked Mr. Little to please give us the recommendations with the building of the library being shut down, the senior center is shut down, and any other personnel, and asking Mr. Little to please give us and the public his recommendations as the manager of this municipality.
Well, I've already talked to council about this very item. And we talked about 3 departments. We talked about the library, and I'm talking about full-time people. We talked about the library. We talked about the senior citizen center, and we talked about the park and recreation department. And council considered all of these, and I gave recommendations if in different plans as Mr. Harvey asked me to do. And several people, which totaled up to a total of 17 full-time people being furloughed. And council waited back and forth seriously. And through the last couple of weeks, they decided not to furlough any full-time people. And that's basically where we are right now. Council knows what the savings would be in laying off those people. And that would be approximately $120,000 a month in savings. And as the mayor just had mentioned, there's savings that we're going to be conducting with respect to capital items, not only personnel. And council has made their decision to me with respect to what they want to do. And right now, as the mayor has also said about, I've recommended also laying off the part-time people in the library and also the senior citizen center. And that's where we are right now. And council decided to do just lay off the part-time people. So that's where we are right now.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Go ahead.
Once again, I'll just say this. Yeah, we all considered all the options that Mr. Little set forth. And again, I think that what we're seeing from our library and our senior center, as well as our park and rec, they're still providing services. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't change that 2 weeks from now, a month from now, next week. We just don't know what the future brings, but we are not in that kind of shape that many other municipalities are. And I don't disagree with trying to be very,
Prudent.
what should you say, good with the taxpayers' money. I agree. But apparently there are all the services in full. So at this time, I'll certainly vote for your recommendations there, Eric and Linda. But for layoffs to start right away, no. We can hold off, and because we're going to be hopefully still teleconferencing fairly regularly, and we can keep up with that. And then our next meeting, we can address any issues on that. So again, I just think we're putting the cart before the horse. That's just in my opinion.
Mayor, may I add to the conversation with respect to finances?
Yes, Mr. Little.
Yeah, the biggest finance that we have to look at for 2020 is the drop in wage tax and the drop in the transfer tax. We collect approximately $7.5 million in wage tax, and we collect approximately a little over $1 million in transfer tax. That's for 2020. Now, I'm leaving out building permits, and I'm not saying building permits is not an amount of money we do collect, but those are the big items right there. Wage tax, you're really not going to know how much wage tax you're going to lose this year, really, until the end of May. You're going to know somewhat at the end of this month, but you're really not going to know until the end of May. And if, for instance, we've only collected, let's say in May, we've only collected $1.5 million, then that's something to look at. But if we've collected 2.5 million out of 7 million by that time, then we may be okay. But irrespective, there is going to be a drop in wage tax, unquestionably. As far as the business tax and the mercantile tax, the gross receipts that's based on occurred in 2019.
Correct.
All right.
So the mercantile tax and business privilege tax is going to be okay for 2020. Next year, 2021, is where you're going to see a drop. So you're going to have a staggered effect with respect to loss in revenue. Now, I'm talking about the big revenue items. Real estate tax, you could see a drop in that, but talking to colleagues of mine, other managers, yeah, there'll be a drop, but not as much in real estate tax because everybody is paying their real estate taxes right now. And most of the real estate tax, I would venture to say 80% of it is already in escrow. Most people pay a mortgage and their taxes are in escrow, and that money is escrow, so that money is going to be paid. Now, the people that have their homes paid off and they pay their taxes themselves, you could see a drop in that. So to repeat, for 2020, your drop is going to come from the majority of the wage tax because so many people are laid off. And so that is something that has to be monitored. We don't know how much of the drop is going to be. And as Mr. Aracinko is saying, and also Mr. Poach, is it prudent possibly to lay people off to save money? Yeah. But also Mr. Aracinko is saying, well, we don't know yet. We can always monitor this. And it might be at the end of May, we could have to furlough people because our wage tax has significantly dropped. So that's just a comment on an overview of the finance.
Mayor, if I may, then Mr. Little,
Mrs.
then
Gaddis.
your recommendation was made for us to lay off how many full-time people?
I believe there was 17.
17. So that was our manager's recommendation. So I am staying with Mr. Poach and the idea that we follow the recommendation of our manager.
And my concern, guys, also is to add to that point is that if the problem occurs in 2021, whenever federal resources are not available to supplement those individuals that are furloughed to make up the difference between the 80% that they receive on unemployment, if we have to act then because we're so short, there's no possibility to further reimburse them. This isn't about politics, Tom. This isn't about getting elected. This isn't about doing anything else. This is trying to protect people into the future. We're guessing here. We don't know what that impact is. Irrespective of how we got here to this conversation, from our executive decision to where we are today, put that all aside. I'm willing to forget that. That's not a big deal, okay? But I'm really worried that our problem is further down the road, and we are going to hurt the people that work for us now.
You make a good point about guessing, and
don't make it about politics for this. It's not what this is about, guys.
I'll finish, and then you can go from there. But my point is that we can talk about this, but not make any action on it. And by finally doing a vote to see who's for it and who's against it, I think that's the most important thing. And down the road, we can, and again, like Greg said and Tim said, we can evaluate it month to month if we have to, and move forward with whatever the recommendations become at that point in time.
Okay. Well, I brought it up.
No,
So I brought it up for now. So we'll need to act on this portion, on the manager's recommendations. Mayor, if you let me just modify that so that we can leave it in there. Then
everybody,
Bob can
Mr.
question
Poach,
it.
if you could modify or clarify your motion.
The motion at the moment is to act on the manager's recommendations as outlined, and they would be applying today.
And I would second the new motion.
Okay, so it's as it applies today, and move forward.
Well, wait a minute.
Motion in the
Bob
second.
had a question too, I think.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
If we lay full-time employees off, You say unemployment's going to be 80%, the federal government's going to pick the rest up. We're not going to lose any money. Meantime, would it be required for them to use some of their vacation weeks to bring up the back end for them?
Well, that plays out in your unemployment too, Tim. It's a little complicated. I'll leave it to you to explain. From my research, it's a complicated answer though, but that's a good question, I think.
I mean, you're correct there. You're correct, Bob. Is that everybody at a certain amount? I don't know the actual amount if it's below 70,000 or whatever the case might be, but everybody is who is laid off in America is going to get an extra $600 from the federal government. Now, each state has different unemployment laws and they have different amounts. So Pennsylvania, I don't know what Pennsylvania's amount is, and it's all based on your what you
Just so
make
happens.
in your wage. But my recommendation to council does not come lightly, and I have told you that. And
Absolutely.
the reason why I made that recommendation is because of what Mr. Williams just said, but also as Mr. Wilson said, and as we all know, people are having a difficult time getting their unemployment. But the bottom line is, those people, the 17 full-time people that I mentioned to council, is they will all be made whole one way or the other through unemployment. It may take a while, but even more importantly than that, none of them will lose their health benefits, because Municipal Benefit Services, who is our consortium through whom we get our health benefits, waive the requirement that every insurance company has health insurance, so you have to be working. Well, they waived that through July 31st, as I mentioned to council going back 2 weeks ago. That decision would have been way more difficult for me had that been the case, because you don't want to see anybody go without health benefits. So
Let me ask, excuse me, about the health benefits. Will they still pay a portion of their
yes,
benefits?
yes.
Okay. And what is the percentage that they pay?
10% of the premium.
Sorry?
10% of the premium.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Families the same way?
It's a premium, depending on what their status is: single, married, or family with husband and wife, or family.
Right. Okay.
Craig, you had a question.
Mr. Mayor.
Go
No,
ahead.
the motion and the second, I heard what, how Eric put it and Linda put it. Does that mean we're going to lay these employees off right away? Is that what this motion is saying?
I'll clarify that. Yeah, as soon as reasonably possible. Yes. I mean, you can't do it tomorrow, obviously, but yeah, as soon as reasonably possible, certainly.
Okay, well, all right. I wanted to clarify that. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, and I would just add. Okay. Tim, you should maybe, if you're going to, if you have the dates as far as pay period, Tim?
You're echoing, Nick, a little.
I don't know what you said there.
Could you repeat that, Nick? You're echoing. At least to me, you are.
Yeah, sorry.
Could we
My
maybe
question was for
set it up,
Tim.
Nick, Mayor, please? Could we maybe set this up through the end, through the end of this week? So it's not in the middle of a week?
Well, Tim, your opinion on,
Why don't you vote on the motion?
well, the dates might be part of the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to verify that with Mr. Little.
Tim, are you there?
I'm sorry, Nick, what'd you say?
I'm trying to get
Clarification on the dates of when this would begin. And it seems like Mr. Little is frozen right now.
Mr. Little,
Yes.
is there an issue as far as when the date
When this
is?
would be.
Well, I mean, obviously, if anybody would be furloughed in any organization, the end of the week on Friday would be the would be the best way. You don't want to furlough anybody in the middle of a week.
Agreed. So can we make that part of the motion as well then? That way it gives them a couple days.
That's up to Eric.
Eric?
Yes, that works for me. It's fine. As soon as, yes.
Now, I would reiterate that every municipal staff member is working. They're working in different capacities. That's every department.
Sure.
That is not just the 17 or 18 that are being discussed right now. That's everyone that's upstairs in the municipal building. It's public works employees. It's everyone, even administrative, tax office, finance. They're all working, and they're working in different capacities and trying to provide services. I think the majority of what we're discussing as far as layoffs are library employees, are probably primarily the majority of them. There are some senior center, and I believe there might be some code enforcers involved as well. But this is a time to really challenge the employees to provide services to residents. The library is providing online services to residents. The senior center is doing that as well.
Online.
Providing fitness classes, they're planning craft classes. And we also have to keep in mind, both the facilities, library, senior center, and the rec department, they still have to plan to be opened. There's still a lot of planning and programming that needs to be in place for whenever we do actually open. And some of that's going to come with time, but I would caution council on doing this right now. I think we could always monitor this throughout on a weekly basis. And I believe we certainly have made some savings already with our part-time employees being laid off and some of the other cuts we've made to cover these expenses to support our employees and to provide the services. They might be made whole eventually, but they may not receive any kind of compensation for anywhere from a month to 6 weeks. And for a lot of people, that is difficult to lose 3 paychecks. But the main thing is to provide the services to residents. We're asking our employees to work and to be creative with how they provide things. And there are certainly programs that they've already been working on that I believe they should be given the opportunity to follow through on and provide these services.
Mr. Mayor, please go for a vote.
So could I have a roll call?
I was waiting for everybody to get done. I have one question.
Mr. Harvey.
Tim, could you run down the roster of the potential layoffs in this motion?
Well, I don't have the specific
names.
I don't have the specific names in front of me. Nor
No. The department count.
Yeah, the department count. I believe the library would be 11 full-time people. The senior citizen center would be 2 people, and the park and rec would be 2 people, and then there would be code enforcement officers and a engineering inspector.
Okay, that answers my question.
Tim, the code enforcers and building inspector, how many is that?
That'll be a total of 3.
Anything with Public Works?
No, none in Public Works was considered.
Okay, thanks.
So there's a motion and a second to lay off those employees. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
No.
Mr. Wolfram,
No.
Mr. Arsenko,
No.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
No.
Motion fails. The noes have it.
I'm glad, folks, we at least had the opportunity to discuss it and keep it to the forefront for everybody and still keep considering those recommendations. I hope we're all wrong and that everything still works out for us, guys.
Agreed.
But again, we can still do this on a weekly basis.
I appreciate that as well, Greg, but at least I think the individuals, per the questions that we had, needed to know that we're at least talking about it because they don't know what we talked about in executive session.
Eric, you're good. I'm good. Linda, I'm good.
Okay, we're moving on with our meeting.
Thank you.
We have our executive session announcements that council conducted an executive session via teleconferencing on Friday, March 20th, 2020, Sunday, March 29th, 2020, and Sunday, April 5th, 2020 for personnel and litigation reasons. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at tonight's April 14th council meeting. Council, we have our minutes. You were given the minutes of our Citizens Night meeting of March 5th, 2020, the council session of March 5th, 2020, and the regular council meeting of March 10th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
I have a change.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve those minutes. Is there a question?
There is a question. I have a question.
Mr. Williams, go ahead.
On page 5, on the bottom of the page, it talks about 5th Ward Councilman Bob Williams. That should be 6th Ward, and Councilman needs to be corrected.
Okay, sorry.
We will get that fixed. So with that, anything else, Mr. Williams?
That's all.
So that's the only addition or change that we're making at this time. There is a motion, a second to approve. Any other comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram. Mr. Wolfram,
Mr. Wolfram, how do you vote?
I voted aye. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
got you now.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
thank you.
The ayes have it. Council, we have our tax collection reports. Is there a motion to approve them?
Motion.
Is there a second? We have a motion, a second to approve. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
The ayes have it. List of bills and budget transfers. Council, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve. Any comments? And I will just make the comment that we have, if we compare from 2019 to 2020, there is about $80,000 difference or reduction in spending in March for this year than March of last year.
Mr. Ratner.
Motion, a second to approve. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Maybe turn yours up.
Very good. We're just working through our audio difficulties here, folks.
Can you not hear
Yeah.
me? Good.
No, we got you, Sharon. It's just,
Here, Sharon.
it's me, not you. Okay, the ayes have it on our list of bills and budget transfers. In our payroll report, council, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
And a second?
I'm sorry, was there a second?
I can't hardly hear.
I'm
Was there-
seeking a second on the payroll report.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the payroll. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams,
Mr. Williams, you're muted.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Council, vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. If you could switch to that section, please. Mrs. Gatos,
I
do you have
none.
anything this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
ask
One moment.
Ask Mr. Ratcher to mute his speaker. You are echoing.
I am.
There you go.
That's
All
better.
right, that's good.
Do an audio check. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Much better.
Okay. Let's blame it on the attorney for once. Mrs. Gatos, do you have anything for vacancies?
Nothing tonight, sir. Thank
Thank you. Mr. Poach,
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. Harvey,
Nothing.
Mr. Wolfram,
Nothing.
Mr. Cinco,
Nothing.
Mr. Williams,
Nothing.
Mr. Wilson.
Nothing.
Thank you. Moving over to our bids and proposals. Mr. Little, if you could run through those, please.
Yes, I'm seeking a motion from council to approve the 2020 commodity bids. The only caveat to that is we had 3 submittals with only 1 bid. And any elected body has an opportunity to say no to that bid and rebid it. I would not recommend that because in many instances in the past, we have only had 1 bid for a commodity. The 1 bids are small paving in place with JM paving, Allegheny fence on the fencing, and Rudder for wood surfacing material. But I'm seeking a motion to accept the 2020 commodity bids from council.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
One moment, Mr. Williams. If we could get a motion first and a second, then we can discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion a second to approve it. Mr. Williams, your comment or question?
I didn't have any question.
It was Ron.
Oh, Ron, I'm sorry. Mr. Harvey, please.
I just wanted to say to anybody watching and the rest of council that we are apparently getting very good bids on this because of the oil prices and the asphalt. And I think we're doing the right thing, not worrying about a second bid because those asphalt companies are getting tremendous prices, it being a petroleum-based product. Plus, they want to keep their people working. So I think we have a very good reason to accept the 1 bid.
Good.
Very good. Any other comments, council? We have a motion, a second to approve the 2020 bids. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Council, moving over to our consent agenda of new business 20-1-ST Kraken Properties. Mr. Little, please.
Yeah, the applicant is requesting a site plan approval to construct an 18,621 square foot building to be used as a pet hospital and associated site amenities on property zone C2 in the business commercial district. The property is located at 2674 Monroeville Boulevard and is known as tax parcel 743N224. And Tina, could you put up the elevations and so council and the public could see those? And
Perfect.
okay,
Nice.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Hugus on that, or Mayor.
Mr. Hugus, do you have anything to add?
I can't hear Paul.
Are you on mute?
Paul Hughes is not coming through.
We're getting him there.
I'm unmuted now.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Tina. So this is an existing building on Monroeville Boulevard. It's going to be demolished and a new facility constructed, as you see on the site.
Okay.
I have no further questions on it.
Paul, there you go, the elevation. That's what I was going to ask for.
My only question would be, any issues with this project, Paul?
No, there's no issues. And the applicant has received a waiver from the governor to start construction.
I'm good. Thank
I'd like
you.
to make a motion to accept this.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept or a motion to approve this. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any other comments or questions, council?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
I suggest that the sidewalk along Monroeville Boulevard is inspected and any sloping sidewalk and drop from the curb be corrected.
Is that something we can add to the conditions?
We can.
Council okay with that addition?
Yes, thank
Sure.
you, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, it's a great recommendation. We want to make sure the sidewalks, there are sidewalks there currently, but now is a good time to inspect them. It falls in line with our active transportation plan. So we have a motion and a second to approve this project with that condition. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, shouldn't we add on the motion and second the sidewalk issue?
Yes, I thought I mentioned that.
He
As a
did.
condition.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
No problem, but we're all clear. That's what we're approving is the application with the condition that Mr. Williams just brought up,
As amended.
as amended. So roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank
The
you.
ayes have it. Council, moving to your resolutions. We have 3 this evening. Mr. Little, please.
Okay, the first resolution is a resolution amending the authorization of the distribution of grant funds for the Monroeville Independence festivities in the amount of $12,000 instead of $15,000.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
I have a question. Are we
We need-
going back to, are we going back to 12,000?
That's what the motion is, yes.
Okay, what happened when we agreed on 15?
There's a new motion.
I understand that.
So do you have a vote?
I vote no.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Mr. Little, next resolution, please.
Okay, the next is a resolution authorizing the advertising for bids for the 2020 road resurfacing program from the attached list of roadways, for the attached list of roadways throughout Monroeville.
Motion.
As a comment, this is just for the bid. Once the bids come in, and council, if they wish to reduce it due to expenses in the COVID, they can do that because that is in the contract that we can delete items in the road program.
Good point. So we have a motion to approve it. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Mr. Williams.
When these pavers pave our roads, I would like to see all those manholes brought up to elevation instead of having a pothole every time you have one in the roadway.
Very good point, Mr. Williams.
That is something we can make the inspectors follow through on as they inspect roads.
We do that now.
Very good.
They will continue to do that now or for this next project?
We do it on every project.
Thank you. How about
I have another
the
comment.
storms?
Another comment is when they're paving these roads, you go through other areas and everywhere there's a fire plug, there's a blue reflector in the middle of the road. Could we have them installed by the fire plugs? That way in the wintertime, when the fire plugs are covered with snow, they plow the roads and they'll know there's a fire plug adjacent to that blue reflector.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take it under advisement.
Good answer.
That's something we can look into as the bids come in. And I think to the earlier question about raising the manhole covers, I think some of the issues we've seen have been a lot of the county roads where those manhole covers have been installed lower than what they should be. But I would agree that they need to, if you're redoing the roads, they should be done properly.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the road resurfacing program.
To advertise for bids. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Our last resolution, Mr. Little, please.
Okay, it's a resolution. It's a housekeeping item done annually. A resolution exonerating the real estate tax collector from the collection of uncollected taxes for the year of 2019, and that amount is approximately $183,000.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments?
I just want to make a comment that we will still continue not in a fashion to try and retrieve as much of this money as we can. So it doesn't just go uncollected. Everyone needs to know that.
I agree.
Any other comments?
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We have one ordinance this evening, council. Mr. Ratcher, please.
This is an ordinance of the municipality of Monroeville temporarily amending due dates for the filing and payment of various 2019 municipal taxes and payment of the 2020 pollution control and flood reduction fee, and temporarily suspending the 2020 trade show license fee. And if I may, Mayor, specifically, the business taxes would be delayed from filing and payment from April 15th until July 15th. The trade show license fee would be suspended for the remainder of year 2020. And the pollution control and flood reduction fee would be due on September 30th as opposed to May 30th of 2020.
Motion to approve the ordinance.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any comments? I will make a brief comment that the timing, obviously tomorrow's April 15th, but with our advertising requirements and with the way the COVID-19 pandemic developed, this wasn't on anyone's radar in February whenever we could have acted on this March meeting. That's why we are voting on this evening so close to April 15th. But I would hope that council would support this ordinance. We just need to make it official at our regular council meeting, and just the timing wasn't ideal. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos,
Aye.
Mr. Poach,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram,
Aye.
Mr. Arasenko,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Reports of our municipal staff.
Mr. Ratcher, this evening.
Just happy to see that everybody's in good health, and Mayor, want to compliment you on this meeting tonight. I think you're ready for your own cable TV show. So that's it.
Yeah, well, the meeting's not over yet, Mr. Ratcher, so stay tuned. Okay, thank you. Mr. Little, any comments this evening?
Yeah, most of my comments have to do with road programs that have already started. As anybody that travels Northern Pike, as council was, Ms. Gatos was talking about at the beginning of the meeting, knows the correction of that landslide has started yesterday, and Northern Pike is closed currently, and so is Abers Creek Road. Also, there's going to be a construction on Forbes Road near Trafford Borough, but that isn't going to start until the end of the summer. There's a landslide there also, and I will keep council and the public updated on that, and will continually mention that at the council meetings as we go along here. Also, which is not on the agenda, as everybody probably knows that travels Route 22, PennDOT has started back again on their Route 22 project with milling and paving of that. So that began today. They began on the eastbound lane, I believe, today and tomorrow. If not, they haven't already set it up for the westbound lane. And last but not least, my sincere condolences go out to the Cole family for the death of Darlene Cole's mother and our chief's mother-in-law. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Hugus, anything this evening? No. And we'll move over to our council reports. Mrs. Gatos.
Yes, I know she's not there, but happy birthday, Josie. That's first. Also condolences to the Cole family on the loss of Darlene's mother. You know, our hearts go out to you, especially with this difficult time and not being able to have a lot of family to be able to gather together. I'm sure it makes it even more difficult. As well as, you know, the saying of stay home, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. You know, I want everyone to keep that in mind. And I hope everyone realizes that we are trying to do the best that we all can in a time that is unknown territory to everyone. Some things, you know, one of us believe in and the other one doesn't, and we're doing the best we can to work together as a group. So that's pretty much all I can say. And we can continue to look at this weekly. And again, it can change and go back and forth. So I don't really have any other way to explain what's going on. So stay healthy, everyone, and that's it.
Mr. Poach.
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity to debate the issues too, folks. And again, just, you know, it's always difficult. It is emotional. And I assure you that you know, the debate can continue in everyone's best interest. But I do want to take the rest of the report. I knew Ann Major pretty well, not just as Darlene's mom, but I also had the opportunity to work with her a number of years. So just let me give you a moment about that too. She was a very interesting woman and a leader in her time. When all of the IT that we're using tonight began in programs, she was a leader in that with in a role at Forbes Health System. Started off, you know, punching cards and pulling things together. And by the time I met her, she ran their complete data operations and whatnot for their health system. And then later on, when I worked with her as well, when things went wrong, you called Ann. And in an industry that was male dominated as it began, you know, she was certainly a leader and a lot smarter than a lot of other people. Believe me when I tell you that too. I think I could say I could appreciate her as a, you know, respected her as Darlene's mother, of course, and Doug's mother-in-law as well. But she was a really smart person to be around and knew what she was doing. So to her credit as a leadership, it's a huge loss. I always liked Ann, and I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to know her too. So Darlene, I'm so sorry to the girls as well, and to Darlene's sister and her family as well. My sympathies and pain go out and share it with you. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Poach. Mr. Harvey.
Unrelated subject. The announcement for the upcoming competition in the Monroeville Park, needless to say, at the end of the year is on hold. I don't, myself and Mr. Logan don't know where that's going to be, obviously, at the time. I just wanted to remind everybody that event is on hold. I also wanted to express my sympathy to Doug and Darlene Cole. They have both been very close to me over the past years. I can only imagine how this feels, not only under normal circumstances, but under these circumstances where they can't accept family and friends. And so my sympathies go out to both of you. You're in my heart. Last but not least, just a quick statement. This is a trying time for all of us. I just want to thank all of our employees, 2 healthcare systems in Monroeville, all of our residents. Know that the mayor, council, and this administration is trying in every way to make it get us past this crisis. Please try to follow the state and federal regulations and be safe. We will get through this together, and we will be here for you. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Wolfram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, as everybody's saying, my heart goes out to the Cole family also. And Ron pretty much was going to say what I was going to say. I'd like to thank all the employees of Monroeville for trying to do their best at these times, and also the opportunity that we are trying to do this on new trial time for everything that's going on right now. I mean, this is amazing, all the problems we're having, but we're still able to get through it and everything like that. But again, I think we got some great employees, and I just like to thank them with all my heart for trying. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Arsenko.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Obviously, to the Cole family, I didn't know him as long as you have, Eric, but Cole family is very dear to me and to my family. So condolences. And one because he passed in March 21st, is Rich LaPiccolo. He was a councilman for many years. I believe he had 2 terms as a councilman. He passed March 21st. So to the LaPiccolo family, deep heartfelt condolences. Rich was a neighbor. We had many laughs together, and we certainly had our agreements to disagree, so if you will. And certainly happy birthday to Josie, 39 again, like me, and we'll just keep holding on to it. And finally, as you know, it's been said, thank you to all the employees, especially our first responders. You guys have a dangerous job. Thank you for all what you do for all of us. And you do it every day without fail. And to the rest of the staff, I know you're doing the best you can as well. And I know you will continue to do so. And as Linda had said most eloquently, please stay safe, wash your hands, keep the social distancing. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the time.
You're welcome. Mr. Williams.
My thoughts and prayers go out to the Doug and Darlene Cole and their family. God bless you in this tough time. Other question is, what are we doing about the summer help program?
Well, right now it's put on hold. I think we should address that in May, unless council wants to address that right now because of everything talking with the finance with respect to personnel. Just to recap, during the past, I think it's been 3 years, this will be the 4th year, council has received 3 summer part-time people, or I should say seasonal people, that they would pick to employ, and it is money well spent with respect to labor. But council may want to alter that due to the COVID and the reduction in revenue that we have been talking about. So if council wants to discuss that this evening, we can, or we can hold off till May. But the applications for the summer help is due April the 21st.
Have we received many applications?
I don't know how many we have received. I haven't, Dara, my secretary, or Joe Sedlak, our HR person, they haven't indicated to me how many we have received. I can let council know about that.
I'd like to postpone till May and see what's what the situation is in May, and decide at that point.
Council?
I'm good.
You want to wait till May?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then we'll see where we're at with everything. We'll see how many applications come in, and then we can decide what we want to do at that point. And if we find out things beforehand, if things drastically change, we'd always direct the manager to contact the individuals to say there's been a change, so we can give the applicants opportunities to find
Other employment.
where. So we'll hold off until May, Mr. Williams. Any other comments, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, next thing is, before I come tonight, I was watching Channel 11 News, and Monroeville does not show any viruses other than people in the hospital, and they come in from other areas. But Monroeville itself was not on the list of having any viruses. Continue social distancing, washing your hands, staying away from crowds, and may God bless America and may God bless the Monroeville. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to send my condolences to Darlene and Doug Cole and his daughters. I never met Darlene's mom, but I know that she's been ill for the last month at least, in and out of hospitals and so forth. So it's going to be a terrible time for that family. The other thing I'd like to say is thanks to all of our employees for the job they're doing, and to continue to work as hard as you can in order to get ready for when this virus scare is over. And our first responders, fire, police, and paramedics, you guys always do a great job. But right now it's more trying, and thanks for everything that you do. And just to everybody out there, just stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks for your guidance in this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to reiterate a few items that I've also mentioned, but I would definitely want to start with condolences to the Cole family, to Darlene, Doug, Danielle, and Jessica. I did have an opportunity to get to know Ann for a few years, and she was a super lady, and I really enjoyed getting to know her. And she will definitely be missed by me, by that family, and by many. So my deepest condolences to the Coles. I do want to reiterate and thank our staff, all municipal staff, and what they've been doing and evolving and working during this trying to provide services in a much different fashion than what they have been used to. Thanks to our police department and the changes that they're making, fire department, EMS, everyone involved, our dispatch center, from the top all the way to the bottom, everything is being provided. I would encourage residents, if they need assistance, to take advantage of some of the programs that we are holding at the library and the senior center, and get out to the parks and utilize our services. If you need assistance, reach out to my office, Mr. Little. The main line here at Monroeville is answered during work days. And also our dispatch center is 24 hours a day. Phones are being answered. So if you need assistance, if you need anything, please, you're not alone. And there's a lot of support here in Monroeville, a lot of good services, a lot of good employees, and we're here to help you. And speaking of employees, I just want to finish up. We did have this is our first Zoom meeting. I just want to thank Joe Habala and Tina and Brian, our new IT guy, for helping out here. Get this all up and running. The couple things, Andy Kosabin, he's an IT employee. I think he was able to retire and get out of here before all this craziness went on with the Zoom meetings. Brian has stepped in today. So welcome, Brian, for getting this up and running, along with Tina. Special thanks to you as well. And Joe Habala. Joe, who is, after many years of producing our TV 15 TV channel, this is essentially his last meeting, and it's ironic that it's actually an online meeting. Joe, for many years, he was the one in the yelling at everyone not to touch microphones and making sure that these meetings are recorded for the record. And he always did it. It really took pride in his job, still does. And I can't thank him enough for his service to our community and everything else that he has done. He does numerous things outside of his job description for accidents, fires, emergencies, and documents a lot of the photographs. I think I heard from Mr. Harvey one point that the county, when there's an accident out here, the county already knows that Joe's taking care of things out here. So I wish him the best in his retirement and thank him for everything that he has done and keeping us up and running here on TV. And I'm going to sign off on Joe's last meeting here on a Zoom meeting, like I said, which is strange. But with that, I'm going to seek him.
May I forgot. And thank you for remembering our retirees, people that are retiring soon. But Jim Tomasic has been our supervisor down in our dispatch. His last day is Thursday. So I just wanted to say to Jim Tomasic, thank you for your service and all the years you've given us and all the good work that you've done. So thank you for remembering Andy and Joe too, Mr. Mayor. But I forgot to do that. I apologize to those guys, but also Jim Tomasic as well.
No, thank you, Mr. Arasinko, for bringing up Jim. Sorry, Jim, but I mean, all three of these guys with Andy, Joe, and Jim. I mean, Andy's behind a computer screen, hidden all the time. Joe's down in the basement, hidden, and Jim's down in the dispatch center all hours of the night. So these guys,
They do a lot of hard work.
they can
Disappear
sometimes and just get to work. So we appreciate all their service. And with that, I want to seek a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Thank you and good night.